Hi, and welcome to my presentation. I'll be using a specific media item to relate my findings to the forgotten Armenian Genocide. I'll be discussing certain ideas and theories, such as the denial of war crimes, and I'll back these up with reliable sources. But before I get started, I should discuss genocide in general. The Oxford English Dictionary basically defines genocide as the deliberate killing of a large number of people, particularly those of a certain nation or ethnic group. But the United Nations has its own definition. They say that actions committed with intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group all constitute genocide. This might include actions like killing members or causing serious bodily or mental harm to them. All of these things occurred during the Armenian Genocide, which brings me to my media item. This is a street mural that was displayed in Little Armenia, Los Angeles last year. An artist who goes by the name of Art Via Art created the mural in commemoration of the genocide's 100th reunion. This mural signifies pain. As you can see, an arm has been sliced open and the year 1915 is exposed beneath the skin. It shows the hidden and forgotten nature of the genocide, which I'll go into more detail about soon. Here's a bit of background information about the Armenian Genocide, the first major genocide of the 20th century. It occurred from 1915 to 1918, and a lot of political events, including the Armenians petitioning for equal rights, led to the eventual genocide. But I won't go into too much detail about that. All you need to know is that the Ottoman Empire, also known as the Turkish Empire, saw the Armenians, who were Christians, as a threat. Once World War I broke out, laws were passed to fully depopulate Turkey of its Armenian minority, so that Muslims and Turks would be the only ones left. Armenian men were immediately killed, and Armenian women and children were taken on deportation marches where they were deprived of food and were periodically raped, robbed, and murdered. 1.5 million of these people were eventually killed. But it gets worse. How's that even possible, you might ask? Well, to this day, the Turkish government denies that genocide is an accurate term for the mass killings. They actively go out of their way to punish those who call it genocide, including their own citizens. That's where my media item comes in. Together with a number of other murals that were displayed at the genocide's 100th year memorial, it aims to raise awareness towards the Armenian Genocide because so many people have no idea that it happened. And this hurts the people involved. I'll be using this image to explore the denial of these war crimes, and we'll look at a number of reputable sources to find out why it's being denied, the pain this is causing, and how the Armenian Genocide compares to other genocides in terms of denial. First, we're going to look at who's denying the genocide and why. There are many reasons, but a book by Jeffrey Robertson QC, called An Inconvenient Genocide, Who Now Remembers the Armenians, says that the Turkish government refuses to call it genocide because they maintain that the intent to kill Armenians wasn't genocidal, according to the definition of genocide. The Turks don't deny there were deaths, but they dispute that 1.5 million people were killed and that their intent was to eliminate an entire race. They say that the killings were part of a conflict, not a systematic campaign of murder. And the Turks aren't the only ones still denying it. Because Turkey's a NATO ally and controls important chunks of land, other nations, such as the USA, are also uneasy when it comes to mentioning the Armenian Genocide. This means that acknowledging it is likely to cause the Turks and a number of other countries embarrassment and cost them a large amount of money in compensation. However, there are countries that recognise the events for what they were. According to an article in the Telegraph, last year, the European Court of Human Rights even ruled that it's not a crime to deny the mass killings of Armenians as genocide. Even though the 100th year memorial happened before the court ruling, murals such as this are created in response to its denial. Because prominent figures and organisations like the government aren't bringing justice to it, it remains either hidden or forgotten, but wounds are still open and they're only getting worse as the denial continues. As you can see from the mural, denial of genocide can be damaging, especially towards the people affected. I'm now going to look at the scholarly article Professional Ethics and the Denial of Genocide by Smith, Markusen and Lifton, which talks about the harms of genocide denial. The article says that denial can be thought of as the last stage of genocide, one that continues into the present. A kind of double killing takes place. First the physical deed, followed by the destruction of remembrance of the deed. Genocide doesn't end with its last human victim. It continues the process and has implications for the future. Denial may also increase the risk of future genocidal killings. If people can get away with it, what's to stop future generations from doing it again? After all, it's believed that Hitler was inspired to start the Holocaust because according to him, nobody remembered the Armenian Genocide. The article also says that historian and Holocaust survivor Akkoc regards denial of genocide as an offence in its own right, and says that attempting to rewrite history must be viewed as intellectual aggression, a repetition in thought of what was enacted earlier as a physical deed. Some survivors who were just children at the time of the Armenian Genocide documented their experiences and talked about how harmful the genocide actually was, and how much pain it caused them. The fact that governments are still denying the events would only add salt to their already excruciating wounds.
Hitler, in one of his speeches, said, "Who talks about Armenian genocide today?" Meaning that Jewish genocide also will be forgotten soon. Even Hitler admitted.
Մեծ աղջիկ էր, կուկային կարնեին գրանեին դուրսը, այդ դվոցները գոզադեին կպերեին, գրանեին կպերեին, մինչև լուսը աղջիկներ.
And finally, I'm going to briefly compare the Armenian Genocide with another denied genocide to illustrate that denial of war crimes is painful, no matter when, where, or how it occurred. The Rwandan Genocide, also known as the Genocide against the Tutsi, occurred in 1994 and was the mass slaughter of 1 million Tutsi and moderate Hutu in Rwanda by the Hutu government. An article called Remember Rwanda or Denying It by Gerald Caplan compares the Armenian and Rwandan genocides by saying that although both were very different in terms of denial, victims were equally affected. I've already explained how the Turkish government denied their genocide, but this article says that the denial of the Rwandan genocide has been very much a fringe phenomenon, in other words, one that people find strange. And this is because, according to survivors, the Rwandan genocide didn't occur in the manner or to the extent that it's being described by scholars and in the media. These people aren't necessarily denying the whole thing, but they're denying parts of it and leaving things out that are important to survivors and their families. When people recount history that's false, it can have dire consequences for the future. It'll be a never-ending cycle and people will just keep getting hurt. According to an article by the Japanese Times, a few years ago, a United Nations official, who was a former force commander, apologised for the Council's refusing to recognise that genocide was taking place in Rwanda.
Et donc c'est devant vous que je vous dis que Roméo Dallaire, commandant de la force, a failli le peuple rwandais.
He also apologised for doing nothing to stop the slaughter of these people. Now, if only others would recognise the denial of war crimes as wrong, murals such as this wouldn't have to be made. Although the Rwandan genocide is well known, not many people know about the nature of its denial. The Armenian genocide, on the other hand, is forgotten in all aspects. Denial can be an ugly thing, and every day people revise history to suit his or her own needs. But it's the 21st century, and in this modern world, shouldn't events be accepted exactly how they happened? Denying doesn't give closure and doesn't help people learn. It just causes unnecessary hurt.